Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pause for Payments. My name is Kristy Duncan, and I am delighted to be chatting today with Gayathri Vasudev, who is Managing Director and Head of Global Clearing Product based in New York at JP Morgan. Welcome, Gayathri.
Thank you, Kristy. It's a pleasure.
So today we're going to discuss the benefits of strong female leadership in payments. And being the payments geek I am and a woman, these are two topics that are close to my heart. Gayathri, let's start the discussion by telling the audience about your amazing role at JP Morgan.
Thank you. So I head Global Clearing Product at JP Morgan, which means I head payments for high value wire payments. And we support clients all over the world. It's a sort of non-glamorous stuff that makes payments and money movement across the world hum. We just try to make it cheaper, faster, better, safer.
Well, what's not to love about that? And high value wires are a very important piece of the payments jigsaw puzzle for sure. And yeah, it's wonderful that we've got people like you focusing on that to make that faster, better, cheaper. I love it. Gayathri, the changing pattern of work in the last little while has been really drastic. Can you tell us about the pandemic and how you balance your work and life responsibilities?
Yeah, I wish I could say that I had it all figured out, but it's been up and down. Obviously, in the pandemic, there were even fewer delineations between home life and work life, which is why you see me in the office, though I don't have to be here every day. I actually prefer to be because it helps me separate work life from home life. But, I think work-life balance in general, I think flexibility is a key to work-life balance, right? I've been fortunate in my working career to always have had some level of flexibility. And I think from my perspective, a few things I think really help with work-life balance. The first is to get help, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, or whether it's paid help. Women, I think, generally feel that we can do it all, and we can, but it takes a toll in the long run. And so I think, to the extent you can outsource stuff, do it. I think that's helpful. So that's one of the things I learned. The other is, ask for and avail of flexibility. I think like when I started working and I had little children, I used to leave at 5 p.m. sharp. People would say, are you having a half day? And I would say, yeah, that's exactly right. So I wanted to get home before my kids went to bed. I wanted to have dinner with them. But I almost always logged in at night and then, cleared out my email and did some work without interruptions. And I found that most managers will be flexible as long as they realize that you can and will get the job done, right? So I think that's important. And then finally, I think perspective is important, right? You figure out what's most important to you. So early on, I wanted to have dinner with my kids. I wanted to see them before they went to bed. So I decided to live in the city where my commute was short. That's not for everyone. Each person has their own priorities. So you got to figure that out. And the last one, and I think this is even more true during the pandemic than any other time, is when you're off, you have to be off. A lot of people, especially I feel women, make the mistake of when they are with their family, they're still checking their email and still kind of on, at least mentally, and that's not a good thing. So I've tried, not always successfully, to be off when I have to be off and then get some allocated time to go back and start doing work.
Such great insights. I love that. Get help. Use that flexibility where you can and where it makes sense, and that perspective on priorities, because, nobody can do it for us. We need to really focus on what's important for us, and it can change throughout, our careers and our lives and pandemics, etc. So all really great insights. Thank you. In his 2020 report on women in financial services, Oliver Wyman found that the global average of women on executive committees in major financial services firms is 20%. So can we talk a little bit about why it's important to have women in leadership positions? Why do we need to bump that 20% up?
Yeah, I mean, I think women have a different way of thinking, and that's important to bring to a leadership position. It's not just women, really, right? It's diversity of any sort, whether it's gender diversity, race, just diversity of experience. I think it's important to bring diverse viewpoints into a leadership team. And I think that gets more and more important as you start to make larger decisions, whether it's for your firm or even your country, frankly, right? Like, we need women leaders all over the chain. But I would say the more practical reason is that 50% of your workforce is women. And if you're not going to elevate them to senior positions, you have a much smaller base to choose from for your leaders. And frankly, it gives the women in the workforce something to look up to, something they can relate to have women leaders. So I think a lot of really good reasons to have women in leadership positions. And hopefully in a few years, we'll get from 20 to at least 50 to be representative of how many people there are in the workforce.
Wouldn't that be great? We all look forward to that day when we've got our workforce reflecting the general population that we serve and bringing in all of those diverse perspectives to make better decisions, to build the employee engagement, to understand our shareholders and our stakeholders and our clients. It makes fantastic sense. I want to switch gears a little bit, Gayathri, and talk about payments as a career path. You and I landed in payments, and I don't know your path, but I know I kind of landed here by mistake. But I want to get your perspective. How did you end up in payments, and what do you like most about working in this industry?
Well, I have to admit, I didn't choose payments either. I started off as a young girl in India. I chose to do engineering because I liked math and science. And then I figured out I didn't actually want to do the work of an engineer. So I went to business school, studied finance, marketing, ended up working in a big global bank in the mortgage business. But then when I moved to the US, I had to kind of restart my career. And I ended up joining as a management associate in a big global bank. And I had the opportunity to rotate through different functions. And when I came to payments, I found that it was super interesting. I ended up in cross-border payments, and there was so much complexity. It was global. And more recently, I think in the last 5 years or so, there's been a confluence of technology, and just we've changed the way we do payments. I mean, earlier you would give an account number, an ABA number, all of that to make a payment. Now you can give a cell phone, an email address, and just based on that, make a payment. You can send someone a payment and put a pizza emoji with it, right? Like it's payments, as a colleague of mine said, payments are cool now, and it's super exciting. There's all this really good technology like blockchain that you can really change the face of payments. It's transformative, and I find it super exciting.
I cannot disagree with you at all. It is a really fantastic place to be. It is a place where we can make an impact, but all of these different factors coming in together to make it such a fabulous, challenging, interesting industry at the moment. Fantastic. So you as a female leader, can you tell us about some of the barriers or challenges that you might have faced in your career and how you've overcome them over the years?
Yeah, I think the most significant barrier, I would say, is something to some extent women put on themselves, this concept of a role overload, because I'm not just an employee. I am a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a wife, and I have to balance all of those roles. And that's not always easy. And I think, and no offense to Sheryl Sandberg, but I don't think women can always lean in to the workforce and workplace. I think you have to decide what's right for you. And I talked about perspective. You have to figure out what's right for you at any given point in time. And based on that, you can lean in or lean back. Let me give you an example. When my kids were young, I was there was a point where I was traveling a lot on work. My husband was also in a job where he was traveling a lot. And I felt I had outsourced child rearing to other people. So I decided to quit my job. I took a 6-year career break. And yeah, sure, it set me back a little bit in terms of my career progression. But when I came back, I honestly came back with a fire in my belly to do something important and exciting. And then I was, able to lean into what I was doing. So I think you have to figure out what's right. And so I think that's the first barrier, right? Does the firm you're working in, does the environment make it easy for you to overcome the barriers? I was able to come back to the workforce through JP Morgan's reentry program, and it eased me back in. And then I came back into payments, and then it was as if I never left. So that I felt was the most significant barrier. But then another, I would say, kind of an unsaid barrier is the kind of skills that serve women so well when they are junior or in the middle management. Things like empathy, working well with other people, collaboration. I feel those skill sets may not always be rewarded when they are in more senior positions. Sometimes it appears as if those roles are given to more commanding people. And I think women, as well as their managers and firms, would do well to recognize that empathy, collaboration are important ingredients towards leadership, right? So if for someone to truly lead rather than just command, I think those skills are important. And it's important for the women not to change the way what's gotten them to the top, and it's important for firms to recognize that as well.
Such great insights, and that's one that I've not heard often, Gayathri. And it's very true that we have this persona, this picture in our minds of what does a leader look like, and often it's male, and often it's very aggressive and sure itself, but not so empathetic and perhaps not so collaborative, ruled by I don't know, brute force or dictation, what have you. And I think you're right. There is space for an empathetic, collaborative approach to leadership that we have an opportunity to embrace, and not only for the benefit of the women leaders themselves, but for the benefit of the people they lead and those that they serve. Such great insights. This has been a great discussion, and I hate it to end, but I'd like to close with one last question that I ask all of our Pause for Payments guests. And that is, Gayathri, if you were to share some career advice with the rising stars in our audience, what would that be?
I would say what I said before: lean in or lean out as it suits you. And I would also say work with a female leader. I've had the opportunity to work for a few female leaders, and it's been fantastic. It helps you, they mentor you, and it's a different experience. And sometimes that allows you to be passionate about what you're doing.
I love that. That's fantastic. This has been an absolutely great discussion. It's been a journey talking about the changing landscape in payments and how it's such a dynamic industry, how we as women can build careers and look for things like flexibility in our roles and making sure that we get help when we need it, and making sure that we define our priorities and take that perspective. And that can change over the course of our careers. But it's really, really important that we have more women at senior leadership roles for all of our organizations so that they can help to nurture the rising stars and the talent in the pipeline, and be that role model to inspire other women to get up there. I love your thoughts on recognition for leadership traits that are perhaps more typically female, the empathy and the collaboration, and the idea of leaning in and out to our careers over time based on what your situation is. And it will change as we progress through our lives and our careers. Thank you so much for these insights. It's been a great discussion.
Thank you. Such a pleasure talking to you.
I'm going to thank everybody for joining us today and invite all of you to tune in for other Pause for Payments episodes as we explore the world of payments and speak with amazing women leaders from around the world of payments like Gayathri. Thank you so much.